crucified.
This is, I would say, easily a top 5 funniest movies ever made.
Jesus.
I think it's a top 5 funniest movies ever made. Not the best movie, but just funniest films.
Laughs per minute, this is up there for you in the top 5.
Yeah, I just think the quality of jokes for filmmaking. I feel like there's an important caveat that I want to make. And I think general audiences, people just don't, people go, oh, it's funny. And they think what makes something funny in a sketch, what makes something funny in stand-up, makes something funny in films are all the same thing, and they are not.
Yeah.
It is a different type of funny to make a great comedic film is very different than any other version of comedy. So in this medium, comedic filmmaking, this film is great comedy, great intelligent comedy.
Yeah, mostly. I think this movie...
Nothing's batting 1,000. No one's batting 1,000.
Yeah. I think this movie is really genuinely fascinating, and not even for just like the obvious reasons of blackface and everything else, which we'll talk about.
Huh. What do you mean, you people?
But I just think that like it's such a unique movie in the sense that it is a out and out overt comedy with a huge ensemble cast and full of cameos of famous funny people that is R-rated but like violent. Like it's such a unique thing that was just like put into the world in 2008 when comedies were doing really well.
When comedies were comedies.
Comedies were comedies. R-rated comedies were still doing really well. The resurgence of some of the Judd Apatow stuff and some of Will Ferrell's stuff. But this to do an R-rated comedy like this is a big deal. It's a big deal, and I think for all of this film's flaws, which I will talk about, I think you have to, if you like movies, if you like comedies especially, you want to see them do well, like you have to love that part of this. You have to love that this film was made and was successful. And so yes. I do.
Wildly successful. Not just like financially, but like critically successful.
Yeah.
This was an out and out success. And I just, the 2000s, just to generalize, the 2000s seem like the best time for comedies. Like, is there a better decade for
80s.
comedy?
80s.
The 80s? Okay. I mean, I haven't done the math on it, but that's sure. The 80s were a pretty great time for comedies.
It was all because of this terrible, awful Negro.
The 80s were, I think, the zenith, but it had a great resurgence there in the 2000s after the 90s being sort of like more family friendly with the rise of PG-13 films and trying to kind of dumb shit down a little bit for wider audiences. I think this film is uniquely, this might seem funny for such a successful movie, but kind of underappreciated. And I say this again as someone that has a long list of complaints that I'm going to get into here. Like, I'm not some blind, massive fan of this movie, but I think that it, and maybe I'm just talking about from my own perspective, but as I rewatched it a week or so ago, it was the first time in a long time I'd sat and watched the whole thing. I was really just like, oh, this film's not getting the credit that it deserves for so much of what it did. To be this huge production, to bring together all these really talented people, to be lampooning everything from Hollywood culture and materialism to our shallow narcissistic society, and it's just everything is America is the hero force and all that shit. Like, it's just doing a lot, and to me it's kind of hit and miss, but like it's swinging big, and I really I really love and respect that. I like that it's doing that stuff.
Yeah. This is a Ben Stiller movie. Like, he is the force that made this movie happen, and I think he was working on it since the late 80s.
A long time.
It was like a smaller part in like a war movie and like sort of sparked this idea. It was a Spielberg war movie. I'm blanking on the name.
Empire of
what
the
it
Sun,
was.
I think.
There you go. So it's something that was like, I don't want to say personal to him, but maybe personal to him, or just something that he like clearly wanted a statement to make. And at that time in the 2000s, like, you know, Ben Stiller was the face of comedy films. Like, who else could rival Ben Stiller in terms of comedy films at that point in time? Like, for him to be able to he's the reason that all of this happened. I just think that's because that just doesn't happen anymore. It's just never gonna happen again. I get so sad when I think about like these large ensemble, like A-list comedic, and not even just comedic, but like A-list talent in Hollywood comes together to make this comedy film. Like, is that ever gonna happen again? Are you gonna get this level of talent? Like Oscar winners, multiple Oscar winners are in this film. I just think that's impressive. That's why like all this like A-list talent came together to make this film. Like, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Hey, can I make there's a thing? Never mind. I'm gonna make a basketball analogy, and no one wants our sports analogies.
I always cut those out of the episode.
Yeah, so I'm not even gonna make it. I'm not
Make
even
it
gonna
for
make it. Maybe I'll make it
boy. Make it for our boy Fish on Patreon. You know, our guy. He'll get it.
Hello, Patreon. Here's a stupid analogy.
Just ever so briefly, I think I was referencing like my weird relationship with this movie, and I think it just like it came out at a time where I just wasn't. I don't know if I just wasn't as locked in or something. I really went down a personal rabbit hole as I rewatched this the other week, because it was like, why didn't this movie, like this movie should be one of my favorite movies. Like it's all the things I said. It's this big thing that makes me happy that it was made, even the parts that I don't think are as funny as the parts that are great. But so I was trying to like reflect on where I was in 2008, 2009, and why I think it was sort of that like the contrarian element of me back then, where it was like it was such a big thing, and I've never really loved Jack Black, and so I think that Jack Black's involvement in this
Is this his fault?
No, I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. I'm just saying at the time I didn't really like Jack Black, and the fact that he was so loud and front and center in a lot of the marketing, and even when I saw it, I didn't really like his performance. I thought his character was the part that sucked the most out of all the funny shit that was happening in this movie. And I still feel that way. We'll talk about it. But like, so I think that's kind of why I kind of pushed it to the back. And then my sort of dislike for Jack Black also combined with, oh, everyone says this is great, so it's probably not that great. And so I just kind of like always kept it at arm's length. And then only in the last several years, as I've watched it, you know, once or twice here and there, have I been like, oh, this movie is hilarious, has a lot of some of the funniest bits in the last 20 years. But yeah, like I said, it's a complicated movie. I think it has a lot of misses too. It's not just painting with the broad brush of, oh, this is one of the best comedies of all time for me. I think it's peaks and valleys in this one.
I don't think it's as violent as your arm was just depicting. I think yeah, with all comedies, you're gonna miss. It's like baseball. You're gonna strike out a few times. You're getting up to the plate, and you're gonna miss a few times. So we should probably talk about Robert Downey Jr. I think that
just get to the elephant in the room.
I think that's what people want to hear about, right? I mean, I think Robert Downey Jr. is the thing I think sticks out the most to just general people. Like, Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in this movie overshadows, I think, a lot of everything else that happens.
Pun intended?
What do you mean, you people?
It was not intended, but sure. So I feel like that's probably what people want to hear our expert thoughts on.
Great. How do you feel about blackface, Keith? Tell me all about blackface.
When I was a young boy. So, Ev, how do you feel about blackface?
I think I can sum this up rather quickly. I am still I am of the generation, a boomer, some would say, where I believe that intent matters. I believe that intent matters, particularly in humor. Oh, are you trying to make a joke? Are you trying to make people laugh? Are you coming from a good place of lampooning, in this case, the uptight ridiculousness, the self-righteous narcissism of these method actors who think that they have the right to do whatever they want in pursuit of their truth for this role? Yes, that's what is being done here. So it's not even like blackface in the traditional sense, which is, to my limited understanding, obviously horribly offensive, but was literally there to either replace what would be a black performer, be like, oh, we're not having black performers in this, we gotta have a white guy in blackface, or to literally mock black people in a very terrible, cartoonish, offensive way. This is neither of those things. This is making fun of self-righteous white actors who think that they're amazing and can do no wrong. And so because of that intent, it would have never bothered me. It doesn't bother me now. I know it's not really for me to be bothered or not. But I just think intent matters, particularly in comedy. That's where I land.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily disagree. I don't disagree. I always look as what the butt of the joke is not black people.
Yeah.
So I would never say a person of color should not be offended by this. I just think it is very clear that that's not the point of what is happening.
Yeah.
So the point is to lampoon actors who take themselves way too seriously.
Yeah.
That's
Can you imagine someone would think that was okay to do? That's
exactly.
funny.
Yes, that's what
bit.
we're laughing at him, not black people.
Yeah.
Or how they behave. It's how he is behaving.
Yeah.
That is fucking ludicrous.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think generally he gets a pass for it. I think most people are on this side of the argument.
Yeah, the people who are probably most mad are young white people.
White people, yeah.
This is offensive. Yeah, and to me, not to pivot away from this any sooner than you'd want to, we can keep talking about it. To me, Simple Jack is worse. That to me is the much more offensive part that I don't really laugh at either. I didn't think it was that funny back then. That was another little part of my arm's length of this film. Was I've never liked, and this isn't me trying to fucking be a hero. I've never liked mocking disabled people. Even if you're doing it in this sense to be the same way as Robert Downey Jr. is. These actors are so stupid. It's a little too much. It's a little too full.
Everybody knows you never go full retard.
Yes, yeah. It's a little too. Yes, and I was gonna say to me there is a difference when Maria Menounos who's doing the the report when she stutters.
Yeah.
But now the question is, can Speedman make audiences happy?
That's the butt of that joke is to make fun of how a disabled person may speak.
Yeah.
That's the butt. It's that's the thing that makes you laugh. Ha ha ha. That's shitty. That's shitty. And a lot of that Simple Jack stuff is not great. I think that they think they made it better with the conversation between Robert Downey Jr. and when he's saying never go full R word. He just keeps saying you'd be a moron. You'd be an idiot.
Yeah, to be moronical.
Exactly, to be a moron.
An imbecile.
Yeah.
Like the dumbest motherfucker that ever lived.
When I was playing the character.
Yeah.
You'd be so stupid. A fucking moron would do this, right? You're just a dumb moron. He's just saying it over and over but he's just not getting it.
Yeah.
That he's literally talking to him this would be so dumb for you to do this.
Yeah.
And I think that they think that makes it okay, but they just keep coming right back to it.
Yeah.
In the second act of the film or the beginning of the third act of the film, he's just forced to do the thing again, and he's leaning into it again, and they're all cheering for it. It'd be more powerful. It'd be better if they made that statement and then left it alone to be it is dumb, we won't do it. But they just keep doing it. They just keep doing the bit over and over again, and I go, fuck you guys for doing that.
It's just a lot. It's just a lot. And it might just be like my personal taste, because people might say, oh, you're cherry picking like which impressions to be offended by. But like, sure, to a degree.
It's not a cherry picking. It's not cherry picking. The butt of the, my logic holds up.
Yeah.
The butt of the joke is to laugh at disabled people. That's the butt of that joke. That's not the butt of Robert Downey Jr.'s joke in his character.
Yeah.
I'm not cherry picking shit.
When Ben Stiller is doing Simple Jack, we're not laughing with him. You know what I mean? The way that we're laughing with Robert Downey Jr.
The butt of the joke is to laugh at that character, how quote unquote stupid he is.
Yeah.
And like that accent and the dialect that it's like we're just laughing at that.
Yeah.
There's nothing else behind it. That's the difference.
Yeah. Like for sure. And that's the tougher one for me. I do think that the famous line and the dialogue, that exchange, is probably the funniest part of the movie.
It's high science, man. It's art form.
Yeah.
You an artist.
That's what we do, right?
Yeah.
But you can have that. Never go. I mean, people I feel like have quoted that line specifically.
Yeah.
But is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Like the breakdown of Rain Man.
Yeah, the whole breakdown and
that whole breakdown
Sean
is
Penn.
very funny.
Dustin Hoffman, Rain Man, look retarded, act retarded, not retarded. Count two picks, cheated cards. Autistic. Show.
Robert Downey Jr.'s performance is great. Like Ben Stiller's performance of like not getting it is great. None of that is offensive. You could have that same conversation with just a hint of that backstory, like he did this thing and it bombed and it was stupid. And we leave that.
Yeah.
10 minutes of the film is him doing Simple Jack. That doesn't do anything for that conversation. See what I'm saying?
Totally,
like that
totally.
conversation can exist on its own without that shit. You just need a little bit of context for that conversation to work.
Well, and
Give
I
me
get the humor.
context.
I get that it's funny at the end to bring it back in the sense that like this thing that was his biggest mistake is actually going to end up saving his life. Because what are the odds that this in the middle of nowhere opium den in Vietnam or Laos or wherever loves that movie and wants him to play it forever. There's like, that's funny. That situation is
have
funny.
it do a different. You could easily replace that with another flop, another terrible performance. Like it doesn't have to be that.
No,
doesn't
sure.
have to.
But then you lose the conversation between him and Robert Downey Jr., which I'm not willing to give up. So I'm not even trying to like judgmentally criticize or like, chastise people for the decisions that were made. I'm just saying, like, I think we agree that the Simple Jack stuff does feel like it went a little too far. That you can have the general idea where this guy went full bore to play this character, and then sure, it's referenced, sure, it's shown a little bit, whatever, but it seems to really revel in it a little bit
Too
sometimes.
much. Yeah.
A little too much.
I agree.
And I did feel that way when it came out. And that, like I said, is part of the reason I was like, kind of low hanging fruit here in some of these scenes.
But I to go back to Robert Downey Jr., I think his performance is really good. I think he gives a really good performance. And I learned today, I didn't know if you know this, I'm assuming you do because you're smart.
I know everything.
I learned today he was nominated for an Academy Award for this role.
It's incredible.
And that blew my fucking mind.
Yeah,
it blew my mind. I learned today. I
That's
had
crazy
no
you
idea.
didn't know that. That's the best part of the role.
Had no idea, and it blew my mind.
Robert Downey Jr. this year with Iron Man and this nominated stroke of genius in Tropic Thunder. You've put yourself back among the boldest and best actors working today.
It blew my mind.
It's absurd.
Nominated for Academy
It's incredible.
Award. And honestly, the only reason he loses is because he lost to
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger. Thank you. I'm sorry. I was going to just say the Joker.
Well, man, we would all know who you meant.
Yes. He lost to Heath Ledger.
If Heath Ledger is still alive, Robert Downey Jr. maybe has that award.
He may have an Oscar for this role. I'm not going to say he wouldn't.
It's pretty.
That's crazy.
It's incredible for a million reasons that he was nominated. I mean, that comedies never get nominated. That performances in comedies never get nominated, despite so many being deserving, especially when there used to be great comedies coming out. But this role gets it. It just goes to show, like that to me is such a validation for if anyone had doubted Robert Downey Jr.'s decision to be in this film, It's like, no, like this clearly resonated. Like a lot of people thought this was funny, and maybe the argument can be made, the very white Academy thought it was funny, so that's whatever. But it's a great performance, and most of the funniest parts of the film are because of him. Like, I think I'm comfortable saying that most of the top 7 of the top 10 moments are him. And his line, I'm just like a little boy playing with my dick or whatever, like a nervous, like whatever that line is.
I'm just like a little boy playing with his dick when he's nervous.
That line always sneaks up on me.
No. Can I tell you? Well, now maybe we're going to do this later. But the funniest part of this, there's one answer to the funniest part of this film. It's Bill Hader celebrating next to Tom Cruise, not celebrating, but when he's like echoing, he's the hype man for Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
When he's talking to his agent about all like the G5 plane or whatever, and he's just like, oh yeah, like he's just that hype man.
Pick that player.
Swinging past your knees.
Bill Hader's performance is fucking brilliant gold. It's so funny. His attitude, his demeanor, it is highly underrated. Highly underrated. It's so funny. I laughed for 5 minutes just doing his whole hype, everything he's saying, echoing just like grooving. Watch it again. Stop what you're doing. Go watch it again.
I forgot Bill Hader was in it until I was watching it again. It was great.
Yeah, a young Bill Hader.
Yeah. And Tom Cruise is very funny.
Tom Cruise is great in this movie.
I just thought like it got a little overplayed. Like once the initial like, holy shit, Tom Cruise did this, which is still shocking. Just still insane that he did this. He's never done anything like this, I feel like.
Yeah.
But to have done it was incredible. It was very funny. But then it's just like, you couldn't look at anything for a year or two and not see him like dance under apple bottom jeans, and you're just like, okay.
You're such a contrarian. Just enjoy. Like it was
you
great.
ran it into the ground.
It's when cameos were like impressive. Like I think they purposefully like tried to, keep it a secret.
Yeah.
They went out of the studio, went out of their way to try and keep it a secret. I think it wound up leaking anyway because people are assholes.
Yep.
And they like made them take it down. But like that's such a fun cameo and such a fun like left turn, because you would never think. Like he's the last guy you might think would show up in that role and do that performance. And it turns out, which again, I'm not breaking ground here. I think most people know this at this time. It was his idea.
Yeah.
That character, Les Grossman, was his idea. Ben gave him the script to read, just say, hey, what do you think about it? And he said, you're missing the studio.
Yeah.
You're missing
he asked him to play McConaughey's role.
Correct. Yeah. And he said, no, you need to, and I'll play studio. And he wanted fat hands and he wanted to dance.
Yeah. Accused of Jew face after the fact. Some people thought he was clearly leaning into that with the prosthetics. So the film's got a lot to atone for.
This is good for Tom Cruise for doing it. It makes me wish he just didn't do action films. We talk about that all the time. I know, but I want to talk about it here too because Tom Cruise is funny.
He's a very good actor.
He's a good actor, and I just do other stuff. You can do Mission Impossible and jump off fucking airplanes.
Sprinkle in a couple other things.
But do some dramatic roles, and then also do some comedy.
Well, I've got some bad news for you, for the audience, but maybe good news for you, Keith. Apparently, not long after this came out, Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie were working on developing a spin-off about Les Grossman. And that has begun to be revisited here in the early days of 2023.
No way. I don't buy that for a second.
So that's the hot goss.
No. The only reason, to your point, Les Grossman works in this film is he's a small part. Like if they make a movie about him, that movie sucks because it's too much.
But historically, they do. They do make that movie. Like, oh, people
but
really
it's 20 years later. It's 15 years.
If Vern Troyer was still alive, there would be a mini-me movie. Like that. These things happen.
No, that's why those characters work, because they work in smaller doses. They're comically.
You know that.
I do, because I know comedy.
They know that. Big celebrities and studios have no idea. That's why
they don't know.
They think, they laughed at that. What if we gave them 2 hours of it? We'll all be billionaires.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna see it, but fuck, I don't like. It's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good.
Yeah,
that's not great.
You better download Peacock. It'll be straight to one of them. Straight to
right.
Foo. I was gonna say Fubu. What's the one?
Oh yeah, not
Tubi.
Tubi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fubio. Never mind.
Fubio. Yeah. Want to talk about Jack Black?
Well, I don't think Jack Black is great in this. I think his performance is decent. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think I don't think he has a whole lot to do. He's very one note in this film.
Yeah, but that's because he's kind of one note, and I think Jack Black seems like a really great guy, and so I don't want to just insult him. And he's made me laugh. I think Orange County, when he's playing a real character, a person, a real, that's really good stuff.
She started it, all right? Because she was like, I hate my job. I'm gonna burn this mother down. And I said, you better not. You better not.
But his sort of bit that was so popular throughout the early and mid aughts of just his whole air guitar, and I'm just metal, but comedy and crazy and loud, and just I never liked that. And that's just a matter of taste. I'm not judging you if you did. A lot of people did. He was a huge, huge star. It never appealed to me. And I feel like in this film, and another part of that too is it's not entirely unlike Will Ferrell, which I've talked about, but I realized another layer of this of Will Ferrell as I was thinking about Jack Black is it's because I hold those kind of R-rated comedies of my youth to such high esteem. Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis and everybody else from the 80s that was that could do a family comedy, but then also return to the real shit. We're gonna make movies that aren't for kids. And I felt like Will Ferrell never really did that until he, he's Step Brothers, sure, but even that's very childlike. It's not an adult film.
Well, he's playing a 10-year-old.
Yeah. But it's goofy. It's not a grown-up adult comedy movie.
Yeah.
And I also felt that way about Jack Black. And so I think in my the snobbery version of myself in my early 20s was gatekeeping what I thought great comedies were. And so because those guys always seem to pander to either child audiences or kind of goofy, one-note, silly performances, and they never, even just once in a while, dip into a grown-up adult movie to make grown-ups laugh at dirty jokes, that always kind of bothered me. And so that's neither here nor there, I suppose. But Jack Black in this movie, I think, is still that one note. And I think a lot of his gags are kind of stupid, calling drugs jelly beans.
I don't have any more jelly beans.
I need my jelly beans. I need my jelly beans. He's just constant. Okay, there was a funnier way to do this. It's just very simple.
Yeah, I don't love Jack Black in this movie. I like Jack Black generally. I don't love. He is my least favorite part of the movie. I will agree. I think the bit wears thin.
Yeah.
Over the course, it's just I get it. He's strung out and he's
got one speed.
To talk about a positive, I think of the film, one, the commitment. I think he's incredibly committed to the character, as I think everybody really is. I don't think anyone shies away from what they need to be in this film. And then that is that character. That character who is strung out and does a lot of heroin or cocaine or whatever he's on and was forced in that situation. That's what he would do. Yeah. He would offer to suck dick. He would be going through some shit.
That part's funny. But it's just all the little.
If you untie me, I will literally suck your dick right now.
Yeah, I don't know. That line is funny.
That would consume him. And that would be it. I don't like that he's billed as one of the top characters because I don't even view him, Robert Downey Jr. and Ben Stiller, more so than it is Jack Black. I feel like they probably just used his name to sell
he was
the
a big
movie.
name. He was still a really big name, so.
Yeah, so they just use his name. I don't look at him as he's a third, he's a distant third to me.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And well, then you add in, like, I know that you're keeping Tom Cruise's performance a secret, and like McConaughey and these cameos, but they're all like much more memorable. Nick Nolte is much more memorable to me. Danny McBride in a small role. Steve Coogan, who we've talked about, just love Steve Coogan.
Yeah.
Always mad that he gets blown up so early because he's so funny. Like all those people make me laugh a lot more. Jay
100%.
Baruchel, I might be butchering that pronunciation. I think he's really funny. I like him in a lot of stuff, and he does great in this. I do think
Bill
that,
Hader.
Yeah, Bill Hader, of course.
I really
How
love
could
Bill
I not?
Hader in this.
I wish that the booty sweat guy was played by someone a little more known. Like no disrespect to, was it Brandon T. Jackson, I think. I read, and so don't come after me if this is incorrect, but I read in like the BuzzFeed style 20 things you didn't know, that was supposed to be Kevin Hart, but he turned it down because he didn't want to play a gay character.
Nah, hell no. What? Come on, look.
Man, everyone's gay once in a while.
I'm not gay. How about we do
Hollywood.
this? How about we all get back to work?
That checks out.
It actually does check out based on Kevin Hart's
One of my biggest fears is my son growing up and being gay.
previous entanglements, which sucks because like that's the kind of that would have been better if it was Kevin Hart, like somebody that could really bring a lot. You know, not that guy does a bad job. He doesn't do a bad job. He's funny. He does what he needs to do. But like, particularly now in hindsight, oh shit, Kevin Hart's one of the most famous people in the world. Like that'd be cooler if he was in that part.
It makes that movie even better.
Yeah.
Because his name is attached. Yeah. No, I agree. I love that he hugs Lance Bass at the end. Like I just when he says Lance and everyone's like, no. What are you talking about? I said Nance.
Funny.
I said Nance.
Lance.
Listen here, Lance. Lance. What the fuck did I just hear, Lance?
And you think it's just a throwaway,
Some
whatever.
random Lance, yeah.
And then just, very subtly, just like, there's Les Bass. And you don't even mention him. You don't, call it out or whatever. Just like, shit like that's just really funny. Really funny stuff. I love jokes that are actually setups.
Yes.
I love funny jokes.
You don't realize
that
at
are
the time.
setups. You don't realize at the time. You go, that's really funny. And then later, it's like, no, that's funny. Like, and that movie does this a couple times, and I think it's great.
Yeah. Shout out to the trailers at the beginning of the movie, the fake trailers. Those are some of the best stuff, particularly Satan's Alley, which is very funny.
It might be the best part of the movie is the shit that's not even in the movie.
Yeah.
I think this is going back to why I think this is one of the best comedy films ever is those aren't just like, those are wildly funny. I think we both love trailer comedies, trailer comedy kind of stuff. Like, it's very funny. But not only does it do that, it's a really poignant way to develop these characters quickly.
Yeah.
Each one of these trailers serve a purpose to developing these characters in a way that I don't need exposition.
Yes.
I don't need a dump just to tell me what is happening, even though they do have it a little bit with the E story or whatever that they run. But it really it serves a purpose outside of just comedy.
Yeah. It gives you all the context
makes the film, yeah, it makes the film better. It makes it a better film for it. On top of that, they're just fucking hilarious. They're absolutely hilarious. Satan's Alley is fantastic. Tobey Maguire is fantastic. I love when he shows up and saying like the Golden Monkey.
Winner of the Beijing Film Festival's coveted Crying Monkey Award.
Like award or whatever at this random film festival. It's just
I
so
won that
funny.
award. I think my documentary won that. It's weekly awards of Best Picture in Indonesia.
It does. Yeah. It sets such a tone of what this film is really about, is sort of just poking fun at Hollywood and how we think these things, these Hollywood tropes are so dumb.
Yeah.
And that we buy into them so richly, and like, shame on us. Shame on us for valuing this nonsense, the Golden Monkey Award, and thinking that, that these are really important.
Somebody said they were close to me?
Oof.
Like a lot of comedies, this movie loses its way a bit, story-wise, as it progresses. I think decisions are made in the third act that have to do with like the conclusion of the story, that like it just gets a little stupid, and then it gets really stupid, and not just stupid, but like a totally different style of comedy from the rest of the film, which is, I would say, it starts to lose me a little bit, and this is another thing I felt when I first saw it way back when. It's like, oh, the end is stupid. Like the final fight, I would just ask the question, why does the leader of the drug dealers have to be a child? Like that all seems a little unnecessarily goofy. Oh, now there's a kung fu fight and the little kid's beating up the adult. Okay, whatever, sure. There's some kind of really sudden stuff with, oh, now Ben Stiller is completely nuts. He's gone off the reservation. I understand it's an homage to the older Vietnam films, people going crazy in POW camps, and it is funny, but it's sudden. But then the worst of the worst of the worst is that the day is saved by Matthew McConaughey stumbling out of the jungle and throwing a Tivo in the sky to intercept the missile. And so I understand. Funny. Yes. Funny. Yes. But like most of the film leading up to that was at least existing in reality. You know, like, was it at least sure. Is it likely to happen? No. Are these people exaggerations of people for comedic effect? Of course. Everything is exaggerated for comedic effect. But that goes 3 steps too far with the agent somehow being able to find them.
That is, him just randomly showing up is to me, I can even accept the Tivo because of how established the Tivo is.
Yeah, but to save all their lives, that's...
It just deflects the thing, and like, listen, I'm not defending it and like, this would really happen. I'm just saying the film went out of its way to say that this is a really important thing, because it's all they talk about. Every time they talk, Tivo, and at the end, the Tivo saves the day. It's another joke in itself that you think it's some dumb thing, and it's really the key to everyone's living. It's actually the Tivo when you think, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the point of it. I'm okay with that. Him just showing up, it's like, how do you find them? To me, I agree. That is ludicrous. Because that's not established in any, he just shows up in the middle of the jungle. How would he know? There's no, that's stupid. That is stupid. And some of the other stuff that you were talking about too is also stupid. The kid being a leader, like, I get that that's trying to be funny. It's a bridge too far for me too. I agree.
Yeah, it's just not necessary. And there's probably people that are listening to this being like, it's fucking comedy, chill out, because that's what everybody fucking says all the time.
Fuck
but it's
those
like,
people.
You still need to play within the rules that you've set for the film, or else it just ceases to be important. Like, which is fine too. There's a lot of comedies that are just stupid and fun and doesn't matter. But that's not really what this movie was.
That's not this film. This film, everything matters.
Yes, and the story is an important part of this film. And so to have the climax of the whole movie is them in trouble, and now they're escaping. And it's because a Tivo stopped a missile. Like, okay, that's stupid. That's stupid, guys. That's stupid. I get it. You can have a laugh at it, and we move on, and no one's losing sleep over it. But it is a stupid departure from the rest of the comedy that's in that movie. So it's like, that'll be funny. It's like we always talk about. It's like the great comedies are things that make sense in that world, and then not ones where someone's like, oh, you know what'd be funny? Is if, you know how I've been talking about Tivo the whole time? Tivo stops a missile. Because Matthew McConaughey just knows how to get there in the middle of this country.
I don't like that he knows how to get there, but I would at least argue like they did their work on trying to set up why the Tivo would save the day.
That's generous, Keith. Why the Tivo would save the day.
Saying, to me, there's a difference. To me, there is a difference. They don't just throw the Tivo out of nowhere. They talk about it quite a bit. Regardless, I understand some of your point. To your point, the thing that gets me, one, him showing up out of nowhere, yes. And the other thing is when they first have like the showdown, like at the end, at the beginning, when Robert Downey Jr. is like the rice paddies or the poppy seed fields. He's like, wait a second, and they're gonna have this standoff or whatever. They have fake guns. Oh, right? These guns are
Are they?
They're fake guns. They're not real. They're not real guns. So when they start shooting, they're all dead. Like they're all like they're not doing it. It's not like they can shoot other people.
Yeah.
So if you had a real gun and I had a fake gun and we shot each other, I'd be dead.
Yeah.
Like
the logistics of that shootout are silly.
It just kind of happens and everybody lives and nobody. I was like, there should be something that explains how that happens, or they get real guns before they even go. You know, something.
Yeah. It's like, to me, I think that's what I thought when I was younger too, was that like the movie is mostly really excellent, like, and does the groundwork and the jokes all feel earned and paid for.
Yeah.
Until really the last 15 or 20 minutes when it just seems like so many comedies do, unfortunately, we got to wrap this up somehow. How do we get out of this? Okay, they get there, they get the guy, rush through some of these jokes with Ben Stiller and Robert Downey Jr., and we got to get out of here and all this. Like, okay, one of the things that makes me laugh the hardest is that fucking baby stabbing him in the neck as he's running, and then he chucks the child.
Yeah.
That is very funny. That's my favorite part, I think, of the last 20 minutes. And while...
Yes, that's fantastic. But it's set, and again, just to call back to the thought process of the film, that I was going to use that scene as an example of like a poor film just has that happen for no reason. That is a very earned joke. That is established on multiple levels. One, you see him forge this connection with the boy, although very quickly. And you see him cheer in the audience. There's another shot of him also being like, yay. So there's a shot of him there. Then they have a conversation. It's quick, but at least present in the film. And then it is made even more rich by the fact that it's playing off of the trope of like, I connect with these people. I'm one with them. You go on without me and I'll stay here. Like that's a trope within films leave me behind. I'll stay with these people. I'll take it from here. I'll save these people. And then turns out he's a fucking idiot. And that kid is stabbing him. That kid you thought was your friend is stabbing him. Like all of those elements work to why when that kid starts stabbing him, that's really, really funny.
Yeah.
Versus if he just showed up and that kid just jumped on his back and stabbed him.
Totally.
Not funny. That's not funny.
I thought I'm just having literally right now for the first time. Do you think that there was any intentional, like, sort of like self-commentary on the industry? That there's really not a single woman in the whole movie? Like, do you think that was like this is like, it's a boys club kind of thing? Or do you think that's just how it was?
I think it's coincidental only because... That is funny though. Now that you mentioned
like
it,
Maria Menounos is like the only woman that speaks, I think.
That's really interesting. You should write a think piece on it.
Yeah. And why they should all apologize.
I don't think it's intentional because in the movie that movie is satirizing, I don't think there would be women in that movie either. So I think if they were satirizing like a rom-com or
sure,
you know,
but I mean there was
different
moments
type
to have a female say something, you know, like whatever it may have been. I don't know. If I was them, I would say that was intentional, just in hindsight. Be like, oh, that was a joke. It was a joke about how male-centric Hollywood is, and not just me and my buddies making a movie where we neglected to write any dialogue for any woman who wasn't Maria Menounos, and we wanted to bang. Let's get her in the movie.
Yeah, one of us will bang her.